Hi guys, so you are involved with an equine assisted therapy program, okay? And today we're going to focus on the mounting block and doing what we call like normal mount. So again, that's where we have a physically able-bodied individual, like myself for example, sort of. As a diabetic, I got diabetic neuropathy. I've got a bulge in my lower disc, my lumbar disc, and I have sciatic nerve issues. So again, I'm still fairly able-bodied, but it is difficult from the ground for me to do a typical mount. So I will use a mounting block. The other goal though is that I want to try to build up my leg strength. So again, I'm not going to do where there's a lot of assistance involved in the mount. There are some safety precautions that we'll talk about that are real important if you are going to be volunteering a therapy program, conducting this type of mount, okay? Obviously, the first thing is have a really calm horse that stands quietly while you're talking and doing whatever. You don't want a horse that gets real impatient. So thank you, Val. She's a good one there. Other thing, you want to make sure that your rider has their helmet on. It should fit where it's not moving up and down. And you got this finger you can get underneath so it's not choking me, but it's still not hanging down and I can't pull it back, okay? So helmet is very important and it needs to be attached before you get on. Your volunteer, you want to make sure that your volunteer, they're not going to stand just directly straight in front of them. You may see that if you're mounting from a mounting ramp because there really isn't anywhere else to go. But that is their blind spot directly in front of them. But they are going to stand a little bit to the front, enough to kind of block that horse's forward motion, but over to the side so the horse can see them with their what we call monocular vision. They're going to hold on just right below the clamp here, the snap here on the lead rope, and their excess they're going to have it in a figure 8, not a coil around the hand, because if that horse jerks off, it could end up breaking a hand. So again, you want your volunteer safety there. All right. If you can have riders that, can do a typical mount in your therapy program where they may not need any assistance. And so in that one, we're going to simulate that. If you have one where they may need the instructor there kind of side by side, you're going to want a larger ramp or mounting block than this, okay? So again, this is a decent size, but it's not as big as I would want if I'm going to need as an instructor to right there be side by side. So again, we're looking at someone, this generic case like myself, that is physically fairly active and able, just needs that extra little lift because they just don't have that lower strength that they had in their younger years. Big thing when you're looking at your mounting blocks, you want slip resistance, okay? So you want to make sure that it is slip resistance. You want to make sure that it is weather resistant. So if you build it with wood, you're going to need to seal it. You want to make sure that it is level and it is fairly wide, okay? Some of those narrow ones can off shift fairly easily. So this is a little larger one here. The other thing that you're looking at is you should be able to get 1 foot all the way here, but I have short feet, so if I had a larger footed individual, I might be a little bit concerned, but you should be able, the length of this step should be the same thing as my foot here, so I don't have a lot hanging over the side, okay? So that's something to, again, make sure. It should be wide enough. Obviously, I can get enough spread in here. Ideally, if I need assistance from the instructor where they need to be side by side, obviously this will need to be wider for that type of mount. And so a lot of your programs, you're probably looking at needing that type of assistance, okay? So keep that in mind here. You want to make sure that your horse is enough distance. They shouldn't be right on top of the mount, but not too far wide that they have to really stretch out, okay? It's really easy if they have to stretch out. They may drop down and then get underneath the horse there. You don't want on these stirrups, you don't want these stirrups way up high. So if this was an any taller horse, I'd want a higher mount because I don't want to have to stretch up too much. I also don't want this stirrup below the mount here, okay? If I was talking about a ramp, for example, then in that ramp, I would want ahead and have it low enough that it's underneath the ramp because they're going to just sit down. Here, I'm going to challenge as a rider, challenge myself to have to pull up just a little bit. That'll work my leg muscles, but I don't have to strain too much, okay? So again, that's important. If I need a little more assistance, again, not only would I want a platform that's big enough for another instructor, but maybe another volunteer on the other side to help to guide my leg over. But again, we're kind of simulating what someone in my capacity would need if you're in these therapy programs, okay? The other thing, if you notice, these are what we refer to as split reins. So they actually technically are disconnected. This is not ideal. You want something connected that you can chunk it down. So, you know, because if I didn't have these connectors here, it would actually, both the reins would fall down, okay? So here you can see it's connected. If you don't have that, you can tie a knot. Your English reins are already attached together, but you do want to look for reins that are connected together. In Western, a lot of people say, well, just get those barrel or roping reins. They're actually really short, that it's very hard to put them long. And it also is hard, as a rider, a lot of times you're gonna have to lean forward because they're really kind of short. So I like the longer split reins, but I don't like the fact it needs to be attached. So do make sure you have that before you get started. So when your rider mounts up, again, you want to make sure that your volunteer is securely holding the horse, is ready to go, paying attention. If you are an instructor working with that rider, but they don't really need assistance, you're still going to stand to the side just to coach them along the way. Again, if I needed more assistance, it would be a bigger mount, and then they would be there side by side with me, with another instructor or another volunteer on the other side. I'm going to have my rider going to pick up, even if they need more assistance, always pick up the reins with the left hand. And then with my right hand, you see a lot of people mount with holding on to the cantle, but there's no attachment underneath here. Even those back straps, if you have a cinch, a back strap, they don't really secure very well. So if I pull hard on this cantle, it can get that horse off shifted and pull the saddle over, okay? Now, before we even got started with the video, we did check our girth. That's very important. Horses will easily exhale. So again, I'll put a lot of weight on this horse, and so I don't want it shifting over. I'm going to grab instead right here at the horn, okay, in the pommel area, not the cantle. I'll put my left foot in, and then I'll just step up and guide over, okay? Then again, like I said, if you had an offside rider, offside volunteer, they would come on over and put the foot in the stirrup. Again, for more individuals that are a little more able-bodied, they should try to search for that stirrup at first, but then after they get done, then you'll want to, as an instructor, to just double check and make sure those stirrups are the correct length. Of course, we're riding in Western today, so they're a little bit longer, so I should only have a slight bend in my knee and a slight drop in my heel. If I was talking about an English rider, they would be a little bit shorter, okay? If I was talking about like in a hunter saddle. Today, you will note that I do have spurs on. Obviously, in your therapy programs, you would not have spurs. But you do want to go ahead and, we're going to be doing some training today later with our therapy horses, so I have those spurs on, but typically you wouldn't have them on. All right, once we get the rider mounted up, then again, you want to make sure that the stirrups are correct and everything is set to go before you move forward, okay? Now, if we were in an independent program and you just wanted to hold the horse while they're mounted up and then go ahead and let them loose, you can go ahead, and I'll have my volunteer unattach the lead rope. And then that way I'm independent from here. She says, okay, I'm ready to go. All right, now finally I want to show you for dismounting processes. So we'll move away. You never want to dismount on your mounting block or your mounting wrap. Ideally, you don't want to do that dismount. If you have to, that's something you'll have to work out. But definitely these blocks here are not the most stable. You don't want to do your dismount if you don't have to. For your dismount, you want to go ahead, and I'll have my volunteer come on over and make sure my stirrup is out of, my foot is out of that stirrup. There you go. You want to make sure both feet are out of the stirrups. You don't want to have them dismount from, and there he checked, he did good, he checked. And then we'll go ahead and do our dismount, okay? You never want to leave a foot in the stirrup just in case she starts to walk off. I'm going to lean forward. I'm going to keep my hands on the reins because now I am in charge of the horse. I could also have, if I have someone that's a little able-bodied or less able-bodied, maybe I'll come over and clip that lead rope back on. But in this case, we're going to simulate as if I got an able-bodied rider doing the dismount and a really calm horse. When I lean forward, I'm going to bring my leg up and over and then kick away, okay? Now, again, you notice at no point did I leave that foot in the stirrup as I dismounted. And that's the main part there. So as you're working with these riders, no matter, more able-bodied or less able-bodied, you do want to make sure that they kick this foot away as they dismount. But those are some of the very basics when you're working in a therapy program, even a lesson program. These are some of the things that you want to consider. And again, each horse is a little different. Each program is a little different. So do your research.